Good evening, everybody. Namaste. I know you've been all waiting to be with Dr. Hari Kirin Kaur. She's joined us from Boston, USA, and all of you, I know, wait for the clock to tick at 6 p.m. and then be with one of our speakers, one of the yoga enthusiasts, academic, or a researcher. Today, we're going to be listening to this lady whom you can see in front of you. And we'd had a hard time trying to get her to, with a lot of scheduling. I've been chasing with her for the last 2-3 months. She's an accomplished Kundalini yoga teacher, but not only that, she's also an obstetrician, a gynecologist. Dr. Hari Kirin Kaur Khalsa is an MD and is also C-IAYT, which is the International Association of Yoga Therapists. And she started her career as a nurse practitioner back in 1976 and then went on to become a doctor in going through a medical school in 1994 as a physician. And then she got introduced to Kundalini Yoga in 2003. And she has now become a teacher of Kundalini Yoga, and she practices as a consultant of she's a consultant gynecologist, she's an obstetrician, and she's also a yoga teacher. And she is a faculty with the Guru Ram Das Center for Medicine and Humanology. You may recall we had Dr. Shanti Kaur with us. So she belongs to the school of Kundalini Yoga. And you might also recall Dr. Satbir Khalsa, who keeps coming to our program, is also the editorial board member of this journal, the Integrative Medicine Case Reports, which has been spearheading this continuous integrative health education series for past almost 7 months. So it's a distinct privilege and an honor to welcome Dr. Hari Kirin Kaur. She is also a faculty at the University of Massachusetts School. And the best thing I liked is that she identifies that the healthcare is now on an up, and she is witnessing a triumph of the human spirit as at the intersection of science and awe. So she recognizes the importance of an empathetic healthcare system, as I like to put it. So let's hear what she has to say about extracellular matrix, the 3 layers of extracellular matrix, and what are the qualities of a yogi. So I'm intrigued by that topic as well. So I'm going to put my video off and listen to her. Welcome, Dr. Hari Kirin Kaur. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm very grateful to be with this community today. It's lovely to hear about the important work that everyone is doing in your community to help uplift healthcare workers, to bring more yoga, meditation, and awareness into our daily lives as scientists and as providers. So I'd like to screen share with you. I just have a few slides, and then we're going to come into an experiential practice. We have a short while together here, and we want to make the most of it. So bear with me for a moment while I screen share. So I teach in the International Kundalini Yoga Therapy Training Program for the Guru Ram Das Center. That's my main focus right now. I'm not actively doctoring presently. I'm focusing on training yoga therapists. And one of the skills that we teach yoga therapists is interoception, or being aware of the body, this concept of body aware. And why is it important to have body awareness? Well, we know that when we are tuned in to what is happening all around us and inside of us, we have a much healthier interaction with our lives, with our world, with the people in our lives. And we know through the understanding of the polyvagal system how important it is to be feeling safe, to be feeling encouraged and uplifted by our social community and our social connections. When we experience all the blessings as well as the challenges, we can truly have a fulfilled life. So the extracellular matrix is very supportive in this job of becoming body aware. And I'm sure many of you that are bench scientists are much more fluent in this topic than I am as a clinician. But I just wanted to share some of the wonder and the awe of this part of the body and bring that into our awareness as yogis and as just human beings. So when we appreciate how the body is woven together, we understand that most of the body is classified as cellular structures. And this can be categorized into structures, broad categories such as epithelial linings, and anything that's interfacing with an opening in the body or interfacing with the outside world typically has an epithelial lining that's very well organized, and that's cellular. And then we think of muscle cells that move us and nerve cells that communicate. When we think of what else there is, when we look at connective tissue permeating the body, connecting and separating all of these tissues and giving us our structural support and flexibility, we begin to realize how much of the body is connective tissue and hence extracellular matrix. We begin to consider how bone, blood, cartilage, ligaments, fat, lymphs, tendons, these are all connective tissues. And what are they doing and how are they communicating with each other and how did they get there? And when we think too about the uniqueness of each part of the body and each organ system, that we have the specialized cells of each organ, for example, the myocardial cells, and then the cells that support the myocardial cells in that particular extracellular matrix create a very specific community and structure. So we see these three groups of cells, and then when we think of connective tissue, we realize that it's made of mostly macromolecules as opposed to cells. The cells are more sparse. We have our fibroblasts and they're helping create and organize and modulate the extracellular matrix. But most of this is glycosaminoglycans and fibers such as collagen. When we look at the unique environments of the ECM, we realize that the communication system across the cell membrane between the cytostructure of the intracellular structure and the structure outside the cell is communicating in a very sophisticated and delicate way all the time. And that the ECM is being modulated and created from intracellular structures as well as from its own self, as well as systems that cross the membrane. So when we begin to lean into what the ECM is made up of and these matrix macromolecules, and we realize how many of them actually have metals such as zinc as a cofactor, it helps explain how we understand the human body as needing, trace elements and all these important things that we don't even think about that are just there. And how these macromolecules mainly create a sponge-like environment, a gel-like environment filling up with water. Especially important here is the idea of the buffering zone that happens in the ECM. So for example, if I stood up from my chair right now and began to walk, the water would shift in my cartilage and in the ECM around the cartilage. That's one, part and parcel with it. So that in moving my knee joint, for example, I wouldn't be bone on bone. I would have this cushioning. And then after movement, that area of the body would rehydrate and fill back up. And this just all magically happens without us thinking about it. So the matrix macromolecules are playing a huge role in the fluid dynamic of the connective tissue and the structure of the body. The fibrous proteins here too, including collagen and elastin, are giving us stretch, strength, and support. And then the adhesive organizational proteins, including fibronectin and laminin, assist us when we need to heal a wound, and they help keep us together. They keep the basement membranes intact and, certainly play a role in when cancer happens. So we just heard a few terms when we looked at the biology of this that echo with us when we think of our practice as yogis or as meditators or as simple human beings. Fluidity, communication, dynamic resilience, stretch, strength, and support. Keeping it all together. When we lean into our practice, these are things we want to have with us. When we lean into a posture, we don't even have to think about how the water balance between fascial planes of our body are cushioning and allowing the body to glide and move into an asana. When we think about how we from one human being to another, we don't even have to think about how much communication, how much crosstalk is going on in the body all the time between every single molecule and tissue structure and receptor. We think about how the ECM provides this ability to bounce back, not just from movement in the body, but from anything chemically or the immune system being challenged in any way. We think about how we all need support in our daily lives and how this is within us all the time, and that we know who we are and our body knows how to help us realize this. So we'll move into a brief practice now to integrate these ideas. Let's set ourselves for simple pranayama. So if we're sitting in a chair, we'll allow the feet to ground down through the floor. If we're sitting cross-legged, we'll appreciate the support from below us. And we'll put the left hand into Gyan Mudra, into index finger and thumb together, and bring the right thumb up to inhale through the left nostril. We'll just do some alternate nostril breathing. We'll slide the hand around, exhale right. We'll stay there, we'll inhale right. And flip back and exhale left. We'll stay there, inhale left. Flip around, exhale right. Stay there, inhale right. Flip around, exhale left. We'll continue at our own pace with a nice slow yogic breath, alternate nostrils. Notice the fluidity and the dynamics of the breath as you continue this practice. Stay with the breath. As we notice the breath in the body, if we notice any areas of restriction, we can gently allow this dynamic release. Creating ease, knowing that stretch is always possible, allowing it to be so. As we're noticing the breath coming in and the breath going out, we appreciate the stretch, the elastin, helping the bronchiole, the alveolar sacs, down to that single cell interface between the alveola and the capillary bed in the lungs, allowing the exchange of gases, and appreciating that even here, the stretch, the water fluid balance, the dynamics of the ECM are supporting us, giving us all that we need for each breath, for each exchange between the bloodstream and the respiratory system. We notice the nervous system is receiving information and giving information. Ligands are being touched. Keys go into locks. Shifts are occurring. In this very simple practice, we are easing the mind, we are giving the body back some of the nourishment that it needs, the awareness, the gift of awareness of this precious breath, this amazing human body. As yogis, we understand the concept of ojas, the Ayurvedic term for that beautiful, perfect, golden honey-like fluid that permeates the body, that allows the structures to move without hesitation, to have support, strength, wisdom. We allow the experience of ojas to come into this experience of the ECM. And we know that no matter where we are, no matter what's going on around us, we have everything that we need all the time, right here. We feel this golden light within, keeping it all together. Dynamic resilience, strength and support. And with the next cycle of the breath, we'll pause and inhale gratitude and exhale, return it to source. And as the breath normalizes, we'll just sit with simple awareness, anything that's shifted in this short practice, any new information that we have taken in to support our human journey. Thank you for this opportunity to be with your community. It's a real pleasure and a joy. Bless your work. Namaste.
Namaste, Dr. Kiran, that was amazing. You brought the experience to the cellular level, and the way you put ECM is amazing. It's more percolating down your experience to the cellular level. The way the connective tissues are intermingling, and as you mentioned, you can feel almost when you do a simple alom vilom, which you made us do. It was great. So can you take one or two questions about your experience of teaching and as a medical practitioner?
Sure.
On behalf of the yoga scholars, PGMER, and the people who are watching, my assumption is that these 2-3 questions must be in their mind. So I might as well just represent them and ask you.
Okay.
So do you get to teach your patients if you are active in practice, or if you were in practice before? Do you confront any resistance or amazement by your patients whom you had the opportunity, if at all, to make them?
Just to clarify, I'm not actively doctoring right now. I retired from my medical practice to take the deep dive into yoga and yoga therapy training, and then joining the faculty in the yoga therapy training. So I'm not working with patients so much right now. I'm very minimally clinically active through yoga therapy. However, it's important when you have a dual relationship, such as being a healthcare provider and being a yoga teacher, to not blend or insist, to only have these things available. So I was teaching yoga while I was actively doctoring, and made it very, made the boundaries very safe and clear for folks. But I would teach just relaxation response, simple maneuvers, which can be taught very simply while you're taking somebody's blood pressure, to encourage people to take a mindful, long, deep breath. So this is something that's not, forcing any type of practice on somebody who maybe doesn't want it. We firmly believe that we only teach Kundalini yoga to those who want to experience this practice. It's self-initiated. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, pretty much. Let
Yeah.
me rephrase a little bit or make it a part two of the question. Any of your students, while teaching them yoga, how did you have your students as healthcare workers, nurses, doctors? Did
This
they
is an
experience reduction in burnout?
This is an area of interest that my intention is to be moving into in the current times. So we are forming a nonprofit to able to provide services for yoga therapy and yoga in our area. And our first focus will be first responders and healthcare providers. I think it's
Excellent.
crucially important.
We have had lots of publications where the healthcare workers experience burnout, especially the frontliners. They have to wear the PPEs and be in the COVID wards for a prolonged time. Moving on to your own personal experience when you were a nurse and then you became a physician. And I think it was in 2003 when you got in touch with the Kundalini yoga, or whenever you got in touch. What moved you towards it, and what transformation you found within yourself?
Thank you for that question. I was searching for a way to calm my mind and find my meditative mind. And I noticed that I was too rajasic to simply sit and meditate. I needed a few bells and whistles, and I just started trying different forms of yoga and meditation. And a friend taught a Kundalini yoga class at a Unitarian Universalist retreat, and one class, and I was hooked. So I began practicing and then went off to learn to teach this form of yoga.
Would you like to refer the Indian viewers? We also have international viewers. And with regard to India, whom should they contact for exposure to Kundalini yoga that you practice? Is there a particular school of yoga?
Well, all forms of yoga are wonderful. I think the most important thing is to find the touchstone to your own heart, whatever form of yoga or meditation or simply exercising in nature, if that is, more aligned with the person's beliefs. But there is an international IKYTA, International Kundalini Yoga Teachers Association, that is available to help find teachers. And of course, right now, everything is online and being streamed. We do have courses through the Guru Ram Das Center for Medicine and Humanology that are mainly geared to people who are already Kundalini yoga teachers that want to learn how to do this more therapeutically. But there are some presentations that are open to all. And certainly there's a network of Kundalini teachers internationally.
And finally, how popular is yoga become in the COVID times? Is there a special interest in the people around in your city where you live, in Boston, whichever area, or it's just the same? Are people becoming more curious in these times of challenge?
I think in general, there's been such a trend towards normalizing, accepting, and wanting yogic practices as a mainstream. Even over the past 5 years, having one foot in the healthcare world and one foot in the yoga world, to see how these are embraced, how providers are sending people to go do some yoga to learn how to de-stress, that it's definitely happening. And the fact that everything is online now, with the modified shutdown that's continued, well, there are some in-person things happening, but most people are still staying online. Certainly the stress reduction is so greatly needed that people are turning to this more and more. I think we'll continue to see this become normalized throughout the younger generations as well.
Sure. So on behalf of the yoga scholars, we are indeed thankful and grateful that you came over and shared your 25 minutes with us. I hope that we'll remain connected and be a part of this journey of yogic upliftment or spiritual growth or the ECM betterment of a more enjoyable ECM, more mindful ECM. So thank you very much for joining us. With that, we come to the close of the program. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye.